going in battling with the councillor.
So this lady who was on Colchester Council Watch, she's just basically said exactly what I've been thinking, or the thing is, she's been saying, if only she could have, 5 or 10 minutes with whoever to, get people to understand this or that she wants to get across. Although she's just had the entire video with Rachel, who's got a massive audience and multiple subscribers to a channel who have got other groups, right? So she's had a fair whack at it. But she's saying, she's frustrated. She wants to be able to speak to people more and more people to listen. But people aren't listening, though. People are not listening. That's the thing. Now, what they've just said in this video, right? Rachel's just said, and I don't know how I can get this out other than putting it in the comments and, putting it in capital letters, please listen, right? Rachel's just now said that Councillor King, well, I'm guessing it's Councillor King because he's the guy in Colchester Council who's always popping up in the videos, right? Or let's just say Colchester Council. Rachel's just said now that they've just come out with this rule where you can't repeat the same subject within 6 months. And you can only, have certain limits on what you say, right? Or how many questions you can ask it is, right? All this that the councillors are coming out with is absolute and complete total tosh. Now, I'll explain why, right? First, who do they actually think they are, these councillors, right? The council has only got power to make any orders or do anything because of that mace. It's got the king's mace in there, the authority of the king, right? Now, back in the 1600s and before, we had the hundreds courts, right? And the hundreds courts, according to Edward Fitzgerald, didn't necessarily have a judge, but it was more a convener. And they had the jurats, the jury. He convened the jury, right? Now, the jury, though, were elected to more permanent positions, unlike our juries now are picked out at random, but they pulled the juries out of the magistrates' courts. And the thing is, so the mayor in London and in the cities, you've got the mayor, right? And the mayors sat civil and criminal cases with the aldermen, the aldermen. You can, if you check the William Penn and William Mead case, you can see this, right? So the mayor, right, is meant to be part of the court, both civil and criminal, right, with the aldermen. But then you've got the jurats as well. Now, the thing is that there's a divergence, right, with, you've got court of civil request, the civil court. But what they did is they've reserved what we call the civil court now for plaintiffs between, party A and party B, who's effectively going before the king or a representative of the king, a justice of the crown, right, to resolve their disputes between them, right? That's, you're usually claiming money or getting someone to make a judgment on who's right or who's wrong in a legal argument or dispute, usually over land or property, right? Now, if it's a serious matter, it usually goes before the justices. Now, these justices of the crown who travelled around on behalf of the crown, it was assizes or quarter sessions, and they were only held a couple of times a year. Assizes twice a year and quarter sessions 4 times, and then the assizes started being a few more times a year, right? But if it was not a serious matter, it was still only in the 100 with the jurats, so your peers. Now, the thing is, these civil requests, though, a civil request is a request to the authorities. you're not necessarily having a dispute with someone, who you've divorced with or whatever. A civil request is you're making a request to the king or to your peers, right? Like, if you want to extend your house, really that's a civil request, but you have to get permission in law, right? But who do you get your permission from? Well, the village is meant to be a certain style or upkeep or image or whatever. Well, if you want to make your house bigger and change the look and style of the village for everyone, right, you really want to be asking the people who live in the village, right, your peers, because that's who it's going to affect, right? So you would have thought that, you go see your peers and ask permission and then they vote on it like the jury, civil request, right? But notice that it's not your peers, the other fellow villagers, who have got, 12 jurors who are convening to decide if you should do that with a village or not. But we elect councillors, right? Now, the councillors, the aldermen, the elders, really are like the jury. It is, and they elect a chairman, right, who is the cabinet in the council, effectively same as the justices, right? But they have the mayor, but the mayor is only ceremonial now, right? The mayor doesn't sit in the council, it's ceremonial. They walk around with all the regalia, but they don't actually, well, they do, like, Sadiq Khan in London, right? But the mayor was sitting in here in civil and criminal cases, like in London, right? In the city, for sure. The council, right? When you get your peers, though, right? We might as well call the councillors our elected peers, because you used to elect the jury, and then they have a chairman, a head. It doesn't really matter whether you call them aldermen or jurors now. But what's happening in the council is we're electing people from our community to go and make decisions over our area where we live, right? But it isn't just a convener with your peers. They've got a big mace in there, right? They're acting and they're making orders and powers, not with like the power of the local people who are elected by us, laying of the hands on the councillors. We give them the power. They're posing it like under the authority of the king, under the mace of the king. Now, you get a lot of people saying that, parliaments don't have local council doesn't have privilege of parliament and so forth and so forth. Well, actually, it's not. You shouldn't call it parliamentary privilege because it's confusing, right? It's actually political privilege. It's privilege over political matters and casework. Now, if you read Erskine May, clearly sets out, this is like when you petition either of the Houses of Parliament or the King, it's the same thing, because the King has got the jurisdiction of Parliament, but you've also got the Privy Council as well. Now, the thing is, right, the local council, right, have got the mace in there. They're acting, they can only make an order as aldermen, councillors, or jurors, whatever you want to call them, right? They can only have the power to vote and make orders in the council with the mace of King Charles. It is the right of the subject to petition the king, right? Now, the thing is, in the early 1600s and before, right, obviously, the county or hundred in which the matter arises, you first want to sort it out in that area if possible. This is the basis of why you have a 100 court. Serious matters or serious crimes you wait till the assizes or quarter sessions come around with the royal justice, right? Because it's either a serious crime when or that only the justices can hear, or it's a matter between you and the king, right? And it's beyond. It's not for the local jury or 100 to have the authority to decide. Now, this is where the power of the petitioning immunity and protection comes from, right? From the Magna Carta. Because when you have a dispute between the king and a local area, you're actually pursuing it on behalf of yourself and all the people signed, your local 100. Now, when they sign it, the petition, and support it, you're getting consent from your local region or area or people to pursue that case or cause. This is like Extinction Rebellion are doing to a higher level, to raise it to the king. And this is why you're not supposed to be prosecuted, charged, or held to legal responsibility by your local 100 court, right? Because your 100 have signed it and consented a legal writ to take a matter between the king or parliament, right? So you're not meant to be prosecuted or charged, right? And if it's a matter like, with your local council, you do go to the local council first with planning permission disputes, with, digging up the street or road, or with whatever it is, this 5G, or, the list is endless of what local matters you've got. But if it doesn't come to a resolution, or if you want to appeal it, everyone's banging on about these judicial reviews, but there is no judicial review because you don't have a jury anymore. They pulled the jury out of the magistrates' courts. With all this judicial review, before 1850s, you would had a judicial review with a jury, not one of these pompous justices who is making decisions with corporate interests, right? That's where people are going wrong, because you would have a jury with the judicial review, but the judicial review is only really meant to scrutinise due process of law, whether the council followed proper process or did things properly or whatever. You've actually got, for the decision, the right to appeal higher, not in the civil court and not in the criminal court, but to Parliament, to what is above a magistrate's court, a crown court, what is above the civil court, the high court, what is above the chamber, Parliament. Now, this is what I've been on with the Lady Chief Justice with, right? This is what I've been on with the Lady Chief Justice with, using the Justices of the Peace Act 1997, which is now the Courts Act 2003. If you pursue a resolution with Parliament, right, all orders or judgments made by the council really are supposed to be voided, right, because you're appealing it higher, but they're not offering that. But this is like with Stonehenge. Really, that Stonehenge tunnel, they should have had a Wiltshire referendum. There was a petition in Wiltshire, and then, if you don't get your resolution there, then you go to Parliament. What they did is they just petitioned Parliament. It should have been blocked by the people in Wiltshire. We're being scammed out of using Parliament. You see, when you list a petition on Parliament website, right, on that petition site, and you put the title, you should be able to put things like, if you had a case with the council or planning application number 638842G, right, you should be able to, if you get annoyed with the council and they, made a judgment that you're not happy with, you don't go to the judicial review. That's to scrutinise lawful due process and so forth. And there's meant to be a jury in there anyway. But you can actually appeal it to Parliament. Case, 693844B. You want a resolution from Parliament, and you get 100,000 people to say that, justify it. So they're not doing that. This is what I've done with the entire redevelopment of our town centre, which I had a case with judicial conduct investigation, because I'm saying that you can do that. I actually opened a civil case to the court for damages because they upset me, because they ripped some trees out that an entire protest group, local community group, had opposed all these trees being pulled out. And I'm like, well, what am I doing in the civil court against damages from the council? When I'm like, well, I'm appealing it to Parliament. So I had to say, well, actually, that case with the courts is void because I'm appealing higher, right? So people need to understand this, and we need to call them out on it. I mean, really, you should be able to do it over criminal cases, because they had put a bill through for those post office workers to get their convictions overturned and so forth. I mean, John Pym did it under the short Parliament and long Parliament for John Beswick and Henry Burns cases. You can do it. You see, they had the Appellate Jurisdiction Act for the House of Lords, which they repealed, but they never needed it in the first place. It isn't just the House of Lords. You can get it from Parliament. They're just trying to blag you and pass all this off. But let's come back to the council, right? Councillor King. It's insane, ridiculous, preposterous, and fully retarded, and a mockery to have a council, for example, Colchester Council, sat there with a gold mace of King Charles III, which is the only reason they can make judgments in there, and a councillor called Councillor King, and he loves the name. I'm Councillor King. Oh, it's, the king, the mace of the king. Well, funnily enough, it's the right of the subjects, not only subjects in terms of people, us, but of the subjects, the subject of interest, to petition the king. And all prosecutions and any commitment for doing so are illegal, right? No matter what they tell you. Yeah, Colchester Council, we're petitioning the king. It's the king's council. And that's the joke, Councillor King. It's King Charles's local authority. And you can't be held to any commitments. So why is Councillor King coming up with commitments? But he knows this. I've seen women on these videos sit in front of him at the end of that table and challenging him on stuff. And he's got this, rock solid iron steel demeanour personality, right? But he's just bluffing. It's all a blag. He has to, because otherwise they'll be beaten every time and annihilated. He's the king of bluffs. He's like the king of bluffs. It is the right to petition Councillor King, and all prosecutions and commitments for doing so are illegal, right? So why is he coming out with all these commitments, And the thing is, this is the thing, right? And they had that lawyer on the other day, Damian, right? Who it's impossible to contact with him. I don't know why he wants to go on the programme if he doesn't want people to talk to him. He wants to talk to people, but he doesn't want people to talk to him, right? These are the secret people, but you can't find the secret people, and you can't find Damian, right? So all I can do is speak, record, and put the link, and hopefully someone sees it. Unless I send it into Colchester Council, right? Now, Councillor King needs to be very clear on this, right? He needs to snort some smelling salts, right? Or go stand outside in the fresh air, right? And, chew on some soft mints, right? And get this contemplated until his mind is purely transparent like glass, right? The 1688 Bill of Rights, which that Damian has been banging on about, right? In the 1688 Bill of Rights, who's that? Who does the act concern? Who does the bill pertain to and concern? Well, Damian should know this. Rachel said she wanted to learn more about the Bill of Rights. She wanted to understand it more. Read it. Just read it. It's not that long. But as you're reading the words, if you don't understand the words, then and what they pertain to and what they are relevant to and what they're concerning, it's almost like there aren't many words there, but people are reading over them, and it's almost kind of like it's like an innuendo, or there's more. There's more to it. Like when you say it, word has 2, 3, 4, 5 meanings. The sentence means a lot more and applies to a lot more things and is relevant to a lot more situations and things than it first appears when you read it first time, right? And that's what you've got to get through to, right? Now, the 1688 Bill of Rights, even though Damian was, spent a whole video talking about it last time, right? Lawman and Lawman 2, it concerns all of the rights of the realm, right? But specifically, when people in the authority are doing something wrong and not doing it right, it's not just about us. Our rights are only violated when someone violates them, right? Now, that bill concerns three main characters, or three main positions, three main roles, three main governmental positions of persons, right? And those are, when we talk about the Bill of Rights, it doesn't just apply to ministers in the government. It applies to judges in courts, ministers in Parliament or MPs, and councillors in local authorities, right? Councillors. You don't have councillors in Parliament. Councillors are in the council, right? If you want to call them aldermen, right? Maybe you want to call them aldermen or whatever. It concerns councillors, right? So that means that the Bill of Rights is applicable and in use and relevant to effect in situations when you're dealing with Parliament, when you're dealing with local council authorities, which are like Parliament, but in local areas with the mace of the Crown, because Parliament's got the mace of the Crown, and in the courts with the royal judges or justices, right? Those are the three places where that bill is applicable, in use and in effect. Councillors, Parliament, and judges. Now let's take the 1661 Tumultuous Petitioning Act, because that's when it's all happening and going off, right? And there is a lot of action going on, and all of these are in use. And that is because this is before the Bill of Rights as well. Even before the Bill of Rights, before you've got the right to petition the king, and all prosecutions against you for doing so are illegal, right? But they're still doing it. Now, you had your case, right? Now, if it's about arising in the local area, you try and resolve it with the local council or hundreds, right? Or your jurats, your alderman, or your mayor, right? It's a civil request, though, right? You're making a civil request. Now, you could do that in the court. You had the court of civil requests, and you had criminal courts, right? You could also sort out disputes between another member of the community, right? Plaintiff, or you could make a request to get permission to do something in the local area from your fellow peers in the 100, right? And you got the mayor in charge of the town. Now, the thing is, right, that's the conduct of the local councillors, right? Now, if it's a serious matter, right, In crime, you've got the justices coming round representing the king for more important. Now, but if it's to do with, if it's not crime, if it's a civil matter or civil request, then what's the next step up from the mayor and your peers if it's beyond their capacity, or if you want another judgment? Well, you go up to Parliament from the local council. You appeal to Parliament. And that's when you petition Parliament. Now, in the Tumultuous Petitioning Act, anyone can petition the king unless it's over 20 people, and you have to get permission, right? Who do you get permission from? Your peers, your fellow people in the area, because you're taking it above the area. It likely was not resolved by the local area, or it's above their authority. And there's a hell of a lot of people. If there's more than 20 people, it was a big group, and you had to get permission through the court, from a justice or the grand jury, right? Because justices were with the jury, or the mayor. The mayor was a justice of the peace. The mayor is a justice of the peace. When you've got your local councillors and the elected chair, they've got a commission of the council chamber, right? You're petitioning the king about a local area that can be dealt with in the local 100 anyway, right? You're petitioning the king in the local area. If it gets more serious, or if you don't agree with a decision and you want to go up higher, then you go to Parliament or to his higher justices, right? It's the same legal principle behind your case. When you're stood in the council chamber in Colchester, speaking to Councillor King, there is absolutely no different right than when you're petitioning the petitioning committee in Parliament, because it is King, right? It's the King's Council. That's why the mace is there. You can't be held to any commitments. Now, it's true that councils have procedures, just like there's the criminal procedure rules and the civil procedure rules. There aren't any proper procedure rules for petitioning Parliament. They've got standing orders and they've got resolutions. They don't have an official act of law, which is the procedure rules. Now, in the local council authority, they do have certain guidelines and rules for procedures. I've read them. They've got to have time for hearing petitions and so forth, but it's not actually a legal requirement. What you'll find is that what Councillor King is effectively doing is kind of a little bit like what John Bercow used to do, which is basically, sent people out, and if they misbehave, or they're coming up with resolutions or voting on suspending rules or various other kind of things. But what they can't do is they can't suspend the Councillor King, right? He's just pulled this new thing out now, right? According to this video. Oh, as of, the other week or the other day, you can't come up with the same thing now, or you can't ask the same question twice. Since when? It can't be law, because it's never been the law. If they've been doing it up till last week or whenever, where's he pulled it from? Has someone just enacted it? Parliament's dissolved. Where's the new act of law? Councillor King's come up with it. He doesn't enact laws. He can't pull out of his pocket which contravenes your rights. There's a very big difference between when the law says you can... When an act of law says, you can use reasonable force, then you can reason with how much force you can use, right? When an act of law says that, should it cause distress, you've got to show there is distress or prove how much distress there is. That's negotiable or debatable depending on the evidence, right? These are all areas of law which are all dependent on facts and circumstances. A right is something that says that another person cannot do something under any circumstances at all. And this is why you have overriding objectives in court, like medical rights, of which the right to petition is an overriding objective. Councillor King, right? If you are in Colchester Council, Councillor King cannot say, oh, you can't have the ambulance coming round twice in one session to come and take you to hospital. You can only have the ambulance coming around once every session, or you can't have the ambulance come in for 3 people, only one. Or you can't use the first aid box if you cut your finger. There are only 6 plasters. Because we've only got 6 plasters. We have to get some more. Councillor King cannot say or conjure up that if there are 10 people in that chamber and 5 of them have an heart attack, only one of them is allowed to have an heart attack and only one ambulance can come for them, because it's an overriding objective of law. He doesn't have the right. Not you. You've got the right to the ambulance. How have you got the right to the ambulance? Because no one can stop you. No one can take away that right to the ambulance. It's non-negotiable. It's not within reasonable doubt or, within reasonable force. You don't reason with it. If you've hurt yourself, you have a right to the ambulance and no one can stop it. Not Councillor King, not Tom, Dick, Harry, Pumpernickel, whoever. He can't stop you. The law forbids him, right? Now, this is when you get to evil judges, councillors, and ministers subverting the laws and rights of the realm. It is your right of subject. You are the subject. What are we going to talk about today? Let's talk about Rachel from Colchester Council Watch. Rachel is the subject of today's discussion. Today we're going to discuss Rachel, right? That's the subject. Oh, she is a subject. She's a subject of the realm of King Charles III. I'm Rachel. I'm a subject of the realm. Oh, that's funny because we're talking about you today. You're a subject. Oh, that's convenient, isn't it? You are a subject and you're the subject of today's discussion. Right. She is an embodiment. She is subject in all aspects of the manifestation. She is the subject in person and what comes out of her mouth. Her physical body on this plane of the planet Earth. In the council stood there, the physical manifestation of her soul. She is subject of the realm and everything that emanates from it coming out of her mouth, and subject of selection, note, tune, verse, hum, dance, tap, clap, wink, nudge. She is subject. It is the right of the subject. The right. It's their right to petition the king. And all prosecutions and any commitments to stop you doing it are illegal. That is, anyone who tries to take away your freedom of what is the subject and who is the subject, right? So king doesn't have the legal power and authority under the mace of the king to come out with that rule and pull it. He's breaking the law. It is an arrestable offence from the police, right? Evil judges, ministers and councillors who would subvert the rights and liberties of the realm. It is an offence in law and a crime, corrupt and legal practices prevention, for a councillor, a judge, or a minister, that means clearly a breach of privilege, to do that. These are special offences for special people, special crimes. So King is criminal. Criminal King. Councillor King is a criminal. And the only thing that needs to be done is walk in there, put the handcuffs on him, and take him down to the police station for illegal subversion of the rights of the realm. It's a corrupt and illegal practice, right? Because he's undermining the overriding objectives of the council session. He doesn't choose how many times you can bring. You're bringing a case. Effectively, what King is doing is saying he's deciding what civil requests you can make and how many times you can make them. Now, what you should be doing, the thing is that if there are more than one person with the same issue, right, or grievance, then every time a person comes in with it or writes in with it or stands and talks about it, it's added to the current, it's amalgamated. It is amalgamated to the current archives. Because there are more and more, and you're getting a stronger and stronger case because more and more people are bothered about it. Until either they do something about it, or you take it to Parliament, which is what we should be doing. But they don't want you to write that reference number and have it published up on HM petitions and get 100,000 people in England to support it and override the council authority. Because they don't want you to. Well, you can do that. They can't stop you, actually, because you've got. That's what the right to do it is, and that's what it is. Actually, when you used to get things authorised at the local level to take it to the next level, but they pulled all the juries out now. So now you've got these pumpernickel. Well. You know, we're meant to elect these councillors, but they're acting for these political parties and they don't really fully, completely understand it. So, I mean, if it really what Councillor King is proposing, effectively, imagine if you went to the pub on a Friday and someone headbutted you, right? And then they went to the magistrate's court. And then on the next day, the same person headbutted you again, right? And then 3 months later, that person, did community service, but then they headbutted you again. Councillor King is effectively saying, we've already had you coming into court about being headbutted by John Phillips, and now John Phillips has headbutted you again 3 weeks later. So I don't want to hear it, right? But can a magistrate do that? No. So it's a case. And in civil requests, fair enough, we're objecting to these houses being built, right? Well, what they're meant to do is they give you a time slot, but really the time slot doesn't really exist because there is no time limit really. But but to try and make it more convenient for everyone, a convener, they try and let everyone know about it. This is why you've got to have notices everywhere. We've put it in the newspaper. We've put the notices down the road. We've gone out of our way to inform everyone, before these people start building the house. Because, we're meant to have heard all the appeals. We're meant to have heard all the objections. We're meant to have heard all the case. But then someone comes along and says, you've run out of time now. They've already started building it, But really, you can appeal to Parliament over any subject. They can't stop you. Override the council. You could have a factory demolished. If everyone in a village, this is the thing. But they're being conned because, our village objected to building multiple times, and then they just waited till everyone had given up and were tired. All these, try 5 years later or every so, it should be, people don't want it, they don't want it, So, this is the thing, if an entire village suddenly decide that they don't want, McVitie's biscuit factory there, they ticked off with it. There's a model for this. And in the town centre, right, I love this one because the local councillors, they go, oh no, planning permission. But, right, guy's got a shop in town, right? It's a butcher's, right? Guy has a butcher's for 3 years and then sells it. Someone buys it, right? Then he changes it into a gym. Oh, he's got to get usage of building changed and all that lot, right? Okay, so he does, gets through, then he has the gym and it goes bust, but then he sells it to someone else, right? How many times can you change the use of a building or got permission to change it or expand it or change it? This is the thing. How many different owners does it have? How many, this is the thing. So how many times can the local people say, we want to get rid of that or, have it knocked down or whatever? Well, really, there isn't a limit or number. Although, you see, when someone sells it and another owner, why does a new owner have a right under the realm to change use of building or expand the building if everyone in the village wanted to object to the last owner expanding it, but they lost, but then they wouldn't let them hear it again. But then, it goes bust or sells it, someone else comes in, and then he can apparently do what he wants. How can he come and do what he wants when the villagers can't do what they want, apparently, because they've already heard it once? So it's tosh. It's a con. It's a scam. You can't have a limit on the subject because the Bill of Rights says it's our right to bring a case on a subject, right? And at the end of the day, you could have all the village come together in a big petition. That should stop something. If you've got, John comes in with a case over something, and then Paul comes in with the same case later than someone else, and the council's going, no, we already talked about this, why didn't the council, call everyone in? They're not doing, are they? Why didn't the council have a referendum? And this is when we get into those referendums, if they're starting to be quite a number of people bringing up matters that they're concerned about, why don't they just have a local referendum? And what you can do, the thing with a referendum is it's so flexible in the law, you can actually make up your own rules. The truth of the matter of a referendum is that the petition, when you write a legislative bill and propose law to Parliament, it's pure creation, right? It's a blank page and you write it yourself. How they've done the local referendum law is that you can actually have a complete blank page. You can even propose how the referendum should be run and what rules it should be run by, right? You can make it up because it's like you're writing legislation yourself and the council approve running it and actioning it, right? And this is where Councillor King is not even on the same page. I mean, you need an emperor, Councillor King, he even knows more than he's letting on. And he's trying to bluff it like, some kind of Western film like with Clint Eastwood, right? Or he really needs to, get some smelling salts outside and clear his conscience, right? Because the law says that you can propose your own referendum and how it should be run by your own rules, right? And you can have ward ones. Now, the main law says that, you can only have one referendum, every 12 months or 2 a year. But for what area? It doesn't say what area, right? You can have a referendum like in a little village in a ward, right? And then you say, well, that I can only have one referendum in that village or ward every year, because that's what we had, a referendum in a ward. And then you could have a referendum in the next ward and the next ward. You can't spend more than £800. Some of these developers, right, and these 5G companies, you know, they're eating £800 for breakfast. They're pissing £800. They're having £800 worth of egg sandwiches in the morning and sitting on the toilet and using, you know, it's nothing. It's joke money, right? So when we pay, this is when we pay council tax and all those funds to the government, right? We could have you could propose and conjure up ward referendums against, you know, everything, and you know, if you have a little local ward referendum, you might not need one for another 12 months or whatever, but the other wards can have them, right? And it only costs £800 per ward. You got companies saying, I want to build a factory out. Well, you know, it's costing me, you know, like 10 grand to get an architect to draw it up and then assessment. They're spending all this money. Where are they getting all the money from? They made no money from us. We ate all their burgers. You know, we went to all their fairground rides. We bought their mobile phones, you know. They took us for a ride. They fleeced us, took all our money, and then they're sat there with, you know, sat on gold bars, chucking it on the council table. You know, like, oh, I'll have a factory, a biscuit factory, and now build me an housing estate. I can make another 10 million. They're chucking gold bars onto the council chamber table like they're, you know, firing a pop pistol. You know, they've got money. They've got more money. They've got money. They're sweating money. You know, they say that Prince Andrew can't sweat. These people are sweating money. It's like, you know, you might as well bottle it in a jar. It's like liquid gold. They're sweating gold. They're that rich. They're that filthy rich. Who's putting these planning things on the tables in the council? Where they're coming from? 5G. You know, building a reservoir. They're businesses, companies. Right? They've got the sweating money. But us, we have the right to an £800 referendum, which doesn't even, you know, that won't even come in their pencils. The architect's pencils are probably more expensive than that. The architect's probably using, you know, £500 pencils to draw some of these plans up, right? It's nothing. We have the power, right? Every single decision going through that council in different wards could have a referendum, and then you wouldn't have verbs or whatever, you know, telling people not to pay the council tax, right? When we're paying this council tax, have it, you know, used for something. Get the school out, you know, get around, you know, knocking on houses, you know. When you've got a ward, you know, 1,000 people in a ward, how do these councillors get elected? They only want to go around doors getting signatures to get them into that council so they can make decisions, right? The petition is king. The 100, the peers, the judgment of the peers. With the local referendum, you are going to the peers and getting judgment. And I don't know how those political parties can have an opinion, because that employment law clearly states that no councillor can act unless selflessly. Now, if you're selfless, you're a shell, right? You can't have a agenda, or you can't have a political party manifesto, because you're acting purely on your electorate, independently on each case that comes in. Control of the council is a myth. It is a figment, a lie, and a fantasy of immense proportion. And it is non-existent. You know, Starmer is living in a delusion of fabrication and charlatans, conmen, right? Now, something needs to be done about these people. Criminal action. It's not, you know, complaints or the monitoring officer or, you know, health and parliamentary health and service ombudsman or whatever. Crime, handcuffs, cells. You broke the law. You're a criminal, right? It's a breach of privilege, is subverting the laws and rights of the realm when you're petitioning the mace of the king. Period. Right? Now, king is criminal. All you need to do, it's like Monbert arrest Tony Blair. 3 people tried, right? And they got the money. Where is the arrest Councillor King? That's when you get the balls out. I don't see ring the police up, they're disrupting, why aren't the police arresting him? Because firstly, they don't really know the law properly. Secondly, they don't really want to because they don't believe in democracy. They don't believe in the 100. They don't believe in the voters' rights and the people. Right? King is criminal. Now, he needs arresting. That would be something to make the headlines in the newspaper.